Seguimos en el Mobile World Congress cubriendo el sector de las telecomunicaciones desde este congreso en Barcelona y ahora vamos a intentar tratar un poco sobre un tema que parece a veces olvidado, que es el tema del roaming, para entender mejor cuál es su futuro y hacia dónde se dirige este mercado para los operadores móviles con la llegada de Wi-Fi y otras tecnologías y la Headnet, etc. y LTE. Rafael, welcome to telesemana.com.
Thank you very much, Rafael.
Thank you for being here. Yeah, Rafael. So first question is, why don't you describe to me where is the roaming market at this point? Because it seems that with regulation in Europe, with LTE, with Wi-Fi, and people turning the phones when they travel off and just keep the Wi-Fi function on to just grab hotspots whenever available. What is the status of this market for the operators? Is it really, disappearing? Is fading? What's happening?
But today the market is still quite similar as before, because technically roaming still exists. Mm-hmm. You still need to be able to go from one network to the other, nationally, internationally. The problem the fact that people are still using Wi-Fi is another issue of what they call the silent roamers. The fact that you try to identify customers in their behavior and why they are not using their normal roaming, which can offer even better quality thanks to 4G. So if you look at today roaming is not disappearing, it's being regulated. Operator have to look for new challenges, new ways of making revenue out of it, especially within Europe. One way is to make outside Europe more expensive. So regional comes very cheap. Outside the region, for example, outside LATAM might become more expensive. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, there are a lot of initiatives like big data analytics and so on to understand how the network is done, how the customer behaves, in order to create new offers, new proposals to make the subscriber use their phone when they're roaming.
Okay, now, from my perspective, like with LTE, you mentioned that making more services more expensive. To me, the fact that people want cheap roaming, or people is trying to avoid roaming. So is there any way operators can, not just by adjusting pricing, make roaming more attractive to users, and not just, either because in Europe it's being regulated and then the price goes down, or perhaps not playing with pricing with Latin America or other markets, like pushing the price up to keep revenues from roaming flowing in. Is there any other mechanisms they could use?
Yes. Actually, the first part is that once 4G roaming, LTE is there, it is already there, but it's fully used and you have a good coverage, you will have probably better quality and better speeds than you would have with Wi-Fi. Mm-hmm. A lot of operators or a lot of customers today, nationally, will use sometimes the 4G because they have a better speed than with Wi-Fi. And the operators have to work based on that. And the way to do it is not to offer pricing per usage like they do, but understanding pricing per application. It's easier, the whole important thing to understand is that customers have to trust their mobile operators that they will not be abused by the operator. Okay. So when they're roaming, they have to feel that they're in control of what they spend and feel that someone is taking care of that. And by building this trust from the operator's perspective, a way to do that is, for example, to create dedicated package. Instead of looking at everyone as one customer base, each subscriber becomes an individual proposal, individual segment. And so you say, okay, you, Rafael, are someone traveling a lot, you need your email, you don't care about social media, I will make a dedicated package for you, unlimited roaming for the next 3 days for this amount of money, just for email. Okay. Or young people, you traveler, you need only social media. So by creating needs and dedicated offers to the needs, you actually compensate the fact that you expect the people to use data, and they feel trust that they will not be abused because they know exactly what they pay for.
Okay. Would you say that today most of the operators have systems in place to avoid bill shock with roaming, or you would say it's just a few of them?
Today, from what I see, most of them have it. I would say in Europe for sure. Africa, it's still a big topic. You have to look at if you look at the regions where there is a high level of roaming, postpaid roaming, bill shock is there. Okay. In the countries where you have less postpaid, more prepaid, it's still a topic to handle, but it's still very much actual.
Okay. But so Latin America wouldn't be an issue then?
From what I know, a lot of the big South American operators have implemented at least part of the bill shock, but not maybe the full bill shock. So they will do it very simplistic. You reach at a level finished, but the idea would be to build on top of that. It's not only to finish, it's to build new campaigns, whole marketing around it. That would be a major challenge today. And also, one of the major challenge operators have today is the identification of what they call the silent roamers. And this, we are building also this based on big data. You analyze where the subscriber is doing, checking what type of phone he has, checking what is his normal behavior at home, what is his behavior here, and try to see why he's not using data, and at that moment send him a proposal on the fly.
Now we're seeing operators like T-Mobile in the US saying, you know, for 120 countries you don't have roaming, like your regular price here in the US will apply wherever you go. How are these operators doing this type of offerings? I mean, why T-Mobile can afford to offer something like this and not, I don't know, AT&T or Telefonica or...
So today, I don't know the latest offer of T-Mobile, but up to 1 year ago, that offer was also limited in bandwidth. They do throttling. So you have unlimited, but you have to keep with 2G bandwidth, edge technology. Then it's
quite
simpler
annoying,
because you actually keep the bandwidth lower and the data comes home, so you still don't feel an abuse. I don't believe they would do it on 4G because the speeds and the amount of bandwidth used will be much higher. Now, some operators within a group, within a T-Mobile group, within a Vodafone group, within a Telefonica group, they might have internal agreements to do that. And one thing that might change in the future is when local breakout will be applied at a big extent, if it will be applied, then it might also change the dynamics in that way. But I don't believe, from what I understand from T-Mobile, it's also a throttling way of doing it. You cap the speed of the data connection.
Are you seeing any difference, those operators that are integrating Wi-Fi with their cellular networks and they are trying to also have roaming on Wi-Fi, is that service in any way different than what they were offering with macro networks, or is it essentially the same type of roaming?
Actually, it's a little bit more complex than that, because Wi-Fi roaming is a complex technologically challenge, because it's very difficult. It's still a challenge to move from one hotspot to another on the same hotspot, not speaking going from another Wi-Fi network to another. No, I believe that from my point of view, the operators need it as a kind of offload, but the fact that 4G will have this such superior quality, and maybe in the future 5G, Wi-Fi will remain like a kind of alternative solutions for more standard practices. But I still believe that it will be used. Even here at the conferences, people are looking for the Wi-Fi and not the roaming to be able to use. Also probably because of the roaming of 4G might be expensive, but it's not always available. So if you don't have an agreement, you might still be roaming on 2G or 3G, and you want Wi-Fi quality which is more stable in the hotspot today.
All right, well, Rafael, thank you so much for your time
and
for giving us this overview on roaming in the world.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Rafael.